Dan's hunting gear is built for the brush, the toughest briar-proof gear out there.
Out in the briars, woods, and thickets, your gear can't quit before you do.
Dan's builds briar-proof, waterproof, blood-proof gear made for every kind of hound hunter, for the one who's out before daylight and home long after.
Every piece is sewn by hand in the USA by Amish craftsmen who know what hard work means.
No gimmicks, just gear that works as hard as you do.
Find the toughest gear you'll ever wear at danshuntinggear.com or your local dealer. Welcome to another episode of Undisputed. My guest today is going to be a legend in the beagle world, Mr. Jeff Stacy. You're listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast, celebrating hunting dog heritage, competition, and community. United Kennel Club has been the hunting dog sports home for coonhounds, beagles, retrievers, pointers, cur, feist, and more for over 125 years. Well, hey folks, thanks for joining in, listening in today to another episode of Undisputed. Man, today I'm sitting here with Jeff Stacy from North Carolina, and I'm looking forward to this one. Jeff's been around the block for a good number of years. He's kind of a legend in the beagle world, so to speak. Jeff, how long have you been hunting dogs?
I've been hunting dogs off and on all my life, but I've been hunting UKC since 1995.
Yeah, it's a good little while. You remember the first ever trial you went to, where it was, what dog you hunted?
Yes, sir. I went to Hillsville, Virginia, up near Canaan there, and the first dog I hunted was Stacy's Mountain Outlaw. Sissy was a female. And I didn't, of course, win the cast that day, but that got me all started. To next thing I knew, the next 2 or 3 weekends, I was at trials.
Yeah, got the bug pretty early on.
I sure did.
Your dad, was he already hunting dogs at that time? He had probably had dogs. Was he trialing too, or where'd that start?
No, sir. He met me the next weekend. Was actually his first trial.
No kidding.
And in Withville, Virginia. And the first dog he hunted was a dog named Stacy's Mountain Outlaw Sam. Was a red tick male. And I think we both finished 8th and 9th at, back then. And Mom still has the trophies in the house, two little small trophies, but that was her first.
But you always grew up with rabbit dogs, though, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So what made you interested in competitions, or how did you even find out about them?
Well, actually, my first cousin, Junior Stacy, got hooked up with these guys up in Hillsville, Virginia. Doug Winesett, some of the Winesets, way back then, was doing a lot in the South. And we was at a family function, and Junior was like, "Hey, man, you need to go try this UKC field trialing." And I'm like, I'm not a field trialer. I'm a gun hunter. That's what we do, and that's what we love. And we went around and around. Me and him hunted together anyway. And the sissy dog was owned by my wife at the time, Debbie Stacy. And he actually started talking to her. He don't want to take her and hunt her in this hunt because she's better than his dogs. And, it kind of went from there, and I finally gave in, and I said, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he didn't stay in long, and here it is 30 years later, and I'm still here.
Yeah, heck yeah. Hey, Jeff, I appreciate you coming on here. I've been looking forward to this ever since we talked about doing it, and you gave me your top 3. That's what this Undisputed series is. I like to sit down with guys who've been doing it for a good while. You're a good candidate. You've hunted some good ones over the years, and a bunch of them, actually, and I don't know how hard it was to come up with your top 3, but I know who they are, and there's a couple I know you've handled that aren't on your list here, so not everybody has that opportunity or could say that they hunted this many dogs of that caliber. But let's just get right into it. It's Undisputed. I kind of force you to rank them, 1, 2, and 3. So let's start with your number 3. Tell us who that dog is, what he is, what he's out of, and all that good stuff.
Okay, number 3 is Dahlgren, Hall of Fame, UKC, Hall of Fame, NHPA, Stacy's Mountain Outlaw Freck. And Freck is out of Dahlgren, Stacy's Mountain Outlaw Wildman, and Firewater Sassy which is owned by Mark Overcash, and at one time I was part owner on her.
Yeah, Mark was the breeder of this dog.
Yes.
Yeah. He was born in 2015, so he's about a 10-year-old. He's still living today, right?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. So what puts him at number 3 for you?
Well, when Frick was about 7, 8 months old, we had a club hunt, a state hunt in North Carolina. I didn't do any well on Saturday with the dog I was hunting, and I told Dad, I said, I'm going to change it up. I said, I'm going to hunt this Frick pup on Sunday morning. And he's like, well, I want to go see him. You know, I've heard what you've been saying since he come out of the running pen. And it was a real frosty morning, tough morning. We went out to a nursery, kind of an old nursery, but, you know, a lot of trees and plants and a lot of rabbits. And running conditions was pretty tough. Some dogs drew minus that morning, and finally, as the sun got up and the frost started lifting, running got a little better, and Frick was doing good, you know, and I was getting struck in, and actually we called a line, and he scored the line by himself, and I won the cast. So Dad told me, you know, when we loaded him back up in the truck going to the club, and he's like, I really like this pup, and I feel like if you put the time in him, it'll sure pay off in the long run, and God knows it has.
Yeah, I'd say he has quite a long list of cast wins since that first hunt, for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, yeah. So, let's talk about some of his hunt stuff a little bit. Any hunts that stand out to him. One thing that I noted here, looking at his record, 8-time world qualifier, 8 different years.
Yes, sir.
And he's 10 now.
Yeah. Yeah, he qualified, and I haven't tried to qualify him the last 2 years. And honestly, I think I could take him today and qualify for the world. Yeah, he's lost a little foot, got a little bigger nose, but all the hunt and heart's still there today at 10.
Yeah. Hey, speaking, let's keep it right here on qualifier world stuff. Any good runs you had with him at the World Hunt?
Had some real good runs with him. I want to say back in 2020, last time it was held in West Virginia, somewhere around there. You know, had a good run, made it to the quarterfinals. You know, we all got to lead them in and do all that. You know, Frick did really good there. Won multiple casts with him at World Hunts. And so, you know, I was very, very pleased with him at there. And, you know, we just didn't get it done that day.
Yeah.
But we drew some very tough dogs and had a really, really tough cast and a good cast.
Yeah.
Actually, the dog that won the World Championship won the quarterfinal cast I was in.
Oh, yeah. He's the one that had put him out that year.
Yep.
Yeah. See, that year would have been, let me see, you said in West Virginia?
Yeah.
Chief. Was it Chief?
No, it was the dog from New York.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I got you. Hey, so what other big hunts? Any other?
He done really, really good at NHPA days in Tennessee. You know, I won in Grands both days. I was in the Final Four in the Grands with him in Tennessee. And of course, a couple years ago, the year he retired, you know, I had a little sickness going on, and my good friend Alan Newby came and got him. I had him qualified for the world, and Alan handled him in the world and ended up finishing fourth. And,
Yep.
I was very, very proud of that, you know. And one great thing, a lot of people didn't handle Frick. We had a few handle him. You know, Alan, of course, handled him at the McVay one year that I was sick, and qualified him for the chase. And then he took him in and ran him in the world for me that day. And then Debbie, which is listed the first owner on the dog, she won the UKC Point Series in 2019 with him. We traveled Michigan, a lot of different places, and he had a lot of cast wins.
Yeah, enough to make Hall of Fame. You know, UKC gives out their Hall of Fame based on cast wins. You know, grand total of 50. If a dog has a grand total of 50 cast wins, and he did that.
He was the fourth dog to go in, and I was very proud of that. His litter mate, of course, was the first dog to go in. So, you know.
Talking about Flame.
Flame.
Yep,
some
Blue
really,
Flame and Kristen
really,
Bundy's.
Yep, really good dogs, you know, in that litter. So
Yeah.
I was blessed to own half of Flame and all half of Freck.
Yeah.
You know.
What was it that you liked about Freck the best?
From his hunt, he'd go hunting, and he went hunting hard, and in his younger age, he was very, very tight. And I felt like, back then, if you didn't see the rabbit, of course, we didn't plus it and all that, he didn't get in trouble. He didn't make a lot of mistakes. It took him to about 4 years old before he became really, I felt like, a consistent first, second strike dog. He was so tight. If he didn't jump it, he didn't open. And what I really liked about him, and he was going to do what he needed to do, and he was going to run the front end.
Oh, yeah.
With good, I felt like really good control.
Yeah, you bet. Let's talk about reproduction. Have you bred him much?
He has 3 litters. Right now, he's got 2 dogs in the World Hunt tomorrow, 2 out of the first litter.
Yeah, as we're recording this, we're in Zanesville, Ohio, sitting here at the hotel recording this, getting ready for the World Hunt coming up this weekend.
Yes, he has 2 females in pups in the World Hunt tomorrow, not handled by me, but that I raised out of him. Then Alan Newby and I bred him to Alan's Big Mac dog. Bred him to Big Mac's sister, and we've got 3 pups out of them that's probably 16, 17 months old, doing really good. And then the 3rd litter, I bred him to a 30-06 female. I'm really excited about seeing what they can do next year. I'm very pleased with it.
Yeah. So you've not bred him as much. You've had several dogs that you bred quite a bit, but this you haven't bred Freck all that much.
It was hard to breed Freck because Wildman, I felt like, was producing so much and so good. By the time Freck was 8 years old, 7 years old, before he ever started getting bred. I did breed him again last week to a female that's 9 years old, same that I bred Wildman to twice. So I'm curious to see how them pups turn out. They should be born in November, and versus how her and Wildman produces.
Hey, 10 years old now. Are you still looking to breed him some more than that's?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Right now, that's basically, he goes rabbit hunting during season every weekend, and he'll be bred, to several more females.
Yeah, well, he's certainly left his mark in the UKC Beagle world for sure, and left his tracks out there. Obviously, Hall of Fame dog with all those cast wins. You said NHBA Hall of Fame as well.
Sir.
So, well, there, Outlaw Mountain Freck. So, number 2, who you got at number 2?
Freck's father, Doyle Grand, Stacy's Mountain Outlaw, NHBA Hall of Fame, Wildman.
Wildman, and he was off of a dog named Black Diamond Triple Jacks. What was that dog?
That dog was from out of Pennsylvania. Was Randy Hodgkins. He was had 3 shots of Jack all trade in
Branco.
Yeah, Branco. That was in his in Triple Jacks. That's how he got the name. And then Kurt Douglas had a female. Whitey Almighty was his mom, and she was
also a Grand.
Yep, Grand, and she was Branco bred also on the bottom. And we was at the Nationals, and they had this litter, and they came up to me and Dad and said, "Hey, we got a pup we want you to take." And we wasn't big into taking a lot of pups. From the beginning, we got what we wanted, and we was doing our own breeding. And I was shocked.
He was red and white. You like red, did you?
Yep. And I was kind of shocked. Dad said, "Let's go look at these pups." And so we go down there and we look at them, and they're like, "Jeff, this is the one we picked for you." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't even get to pick the one I want. No, this one's for you." And his name is Wildman. He's microchipped. He's AKC, UKC litter registered, and blah, blah, blah. So I looked at Dad and I said, "Okay, no strings attached, guys." Whatever, Kurt and Randy, nope, no strings attached. Just, we know you're going to put him in the woods. So I went and we brought the pup home. Of course, I started him, and probably about 7, 8 months old, about like Freck. I was running him, and I had another young male that I was running out of some other stuff, and Dad came to North Carolina and Dad, myself, and my brother Jerry went running one evening, and he said, I want to see these two pups run and one older dog. So we did, and Wild Man was a wild man. You cut him loose, he was 300-400 yards, and you didn't know which direction he was coming from. Garmin's and stuff really wasn't out big time back then. So Dad asked me at the end of the evening, he said, you like this Wild Man pup? And I said, oh, yeah, I like it. Well, what do you like about him? And I said, well, he goes a-hunting. And he's like, yeah, but he's all over the place. And he said, I'll tell you what. He said, I'm going to be back in 2 months. And he said, and I want to see these same 3 dogs on the ground. And if I see what I seen tonight, this afternoon, Wild Man's got to go. He said, so I would suggest you put him in the woods every night until I come back, or every day. I said, yes, sir. And Jerry and I looked at each other and said, okay. And we did. And 2 months, I didn't even think he would come back. 2 months, Dad come back. And, we got off work that afternoon, went by to see him, and he's like, you got them 3 dogs ready to go? And I said, I don't have them with me. I can go get them. And he go get them, Jerry, and I'll meet you there, same place. I said, okay. So we did, and I think we scored 7-8 lines that evening. Wild Man was first on every line, really driving the track, and probably jumped 2 or 3 rabbits and in front of the old dog and everything. And he said, I've seen enough. Put him in the truck. Now keep him in the woods. And the funny story, Jerry, my brother, he used to hunt a lot with me, and he's a big time gun hunter. And I'd be going off to a trial somewhere, and him and my brother-in-law, Jerry Hicks, they would load the dogs to go gun hunting. And I went home one evening, got back early one evening on a Saturday, and the Wild Man was in the pen. And I'm like, Jerry, why didn't you take Wild Man? And he's like, I can't control him like you. He said, I don't want to take a chance of him being out there, with everybody and you not there. And I said, okay. So about the time, I retired Wild Man at 3.5, 4 years old, 2015, after the World Championship in Mountain City, Tennessee. Finished third. But then, he had really become a dog. And what was funny, every weekend, when Jerry would back into the kennel to load the dogs to go gun hunting, Wild Man was the first dog he put in the truck. Made me kind of proud,
Yeah. You mentioned the World Hunt there in Tennessee where he placed third that year or whatever. I remember that out on that big hill. And
yep.
Man, he was trying to make stuff happen on that Sunday morning.
Yes, he was. And I had a really good run that weekend. And honestly, he had won his cast pretty easily all the way through to the finals. The semifinals, we drew a world champion, which was handled Dave Miller's and
Beauty. Beauty.
Yeah. And we drew her and Brian Hutton's big dog. Dog Brian did a lot of winning with. Tough cast, and he really looked good. And I think we had 50 spectators up on that hill watching that semifinals. And as good as he performed, I was pretty confident going into Sunday. And, I caught a bad break there on top on that split rabbit. And Dave McVeigh was a non-hunting judge, and Ronnie Brown. And Dave seen the rabbit, and I did too. But, he didn't run it no circle. He didn't score it. I took a minus in 3 minutes. And by the time I cut him back in, they had called a line on the other side of the hill. So I got struck in, but I wasn't eligible. But he kept coming. And, I ended up losing by 40 or whatever. But he had to drive. And I made a decision that weekend, and a lot of people, a lot of good friends, and a lot of competitors kept saying the following year, where's Wild Man? And I'm like, he's done. Why? You're crazy, And I'm like, well, I got a plan. And Dad and I talked about it. We're going to continue to gun hunt him. We're going to start breeding him. I want to reproduce me a Wild Man. He's thrown me a lot of champions and a lot of grands. Freck, being one of the top, Flame being one of the top.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be the next thing to get into with him. He is currently, as we sit here, he is the number one reproducer in UKC.
Yes,
and he's number 2 behind Trigger now, as on the current. And everybody knows what Trigger's done is crazy. But to see Wildman overtake that spot, that's pretty amazing. Trigger, Mongo, another world champion, Black Elm, Butcher, and then Clifty Creek's Big John are the top 5, but Wildman sits on top of the pretty elite group of hounds right there as current reproducers.
Yes. Yeah, I'm very, very proud of that. I lost Wildman Thanksgiving of 2024. I'd come in from a gun hunt, and unfortunately, he was laying in a kennel.
Yeah, he was born in 2012. So,
yes.
Yeah.
He was 13 years old.
Yeah, so talking about 84 pups is what we show currently on record for him. Yeah, and some looking at some of the names that he's produced. One of the dogs you're running right now, Rowdy, is off of him.
Yes, Rowdy.
That's
he was one of his last litters.
Yeah, Casper is another one that. These are all titled dogs already.
Yes.
I ran with Casper.
Yeah,
before.
Casper was qualified in the world. I've sold him to Caleb Burnett, and his wife had a baby, so they won't be here this weekend.
Yeah, the Ghost dog, Mountain Outlaw Ghost.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't own him anymore, do you?
Nope.
You sold him. Yeah. Popcorn. You used to hunt Popcorn.
Yeah, I
he's
still
off
got
him.
Popcorn. He's there in the kennel. Beauty. Beauty's done a lot of winning.
Amber. Yep.
Amber finished top in the NHPA point race.
Yeah, one of Newbie's dogs, Biggins.
Yep, Biggins.
These are going back a little bit and kind of going backwards here. That Maniac Mower dog that the Brown boys wanted.
And they're breeding him, and what I'm seeing out of Mower is looking good.
Yeah, yep. Coco was another one. Ruby, let me see.
Coco was a really, really nice hound. You wasn't on the cast, but I finished second with her in the Nationals. So did Popcorn.
Yeah.
But.
And then you mentioned Freck, Freck and Flame, those are probably two of the winningest dogs that he is reproducing. That was his first litter, actually.
Yes, it was.
Very first litter back in 2015. But, and Flame and Freck, both Hall of Fame dogs. So he's produced Hall of Fames in the same litter. Yeah. The first ever. And
it was hard not to make Wildman number 1 in this ranking. Yeah. But when we get into the next one, I'll explain why.
Number 1 current reproducer is number 13 historical, and that's on a pretty elite list as well, But
I was blessed enough to get him collected a couple years before he passed. So I'm waiting for the right time and the right female to. He's dead and gone, but he won't be gone. Hopefully.
Why do you put him above Freck?
Basically, because I felt like if you made a very good comment. Freck qualified 8 years straight. Well, at 3.5, I retired Wildman. If I would have put him in as many hunts as Freck, I think he would have won more hunts than Freck.
Yeah.
Or as many.
Yeah.
Who knows, but the plan was to make another him, which I feel like we did with Flame and Freck. And if I'd ever known UKC was going to have a Hall of Fame, I definitely wouldn't have put him up.
Yep.
But you don't know as life goes on.
Yep. I know who your number 1 is. But if I was to give you 5 dogs, let's say, a couple more honorable mentions. I know your number 1, and there's another dog, Red, that you guys did a lot of winning with, and he is not on your list here. But that just kind of speaks how good these top 3 really are. But if I gave you 2 more dogs, who would you throw in there?
It wouldn't be Red. Red and Thunder were litter mates, and if you look back in UKC records, both of them did a lot of winning. But anyway, my 4th and 5th dog, Flame has to be number 4. I handled Flame in some hunts. I owned half of her. She did a great amount of winning. She would have to be number 4. And my Tipper dog, which is up in the UKC breeders females, would have to be number 5. And again, nothing against Red, Thunder. I can name probably 15. And Popcorn, a lot of them. But, with the time, since you and I talked, and since I actually heard the first coonhound one that you put out, I started having conversations. Never knew this day would come, and saying, okay, who was the best dog I had? Who would be next? You know, I ranked top 5, top 10, this and that. And I'm not great with computer work, even though I stay on it 10, 12 hours a day. But I have all these records in my computer. I had wrote them down in notebooks, and I've got notebooks and notebooks of cast wins and of every dog that I put in the hunt since I started.
Yeah.
And
hey, you know, one other thing before we move on with Wildman that I want to get back to that I noticed here, looking at his hunt record, his last hunts were in 2018. So in 2019 is when we went to the cast win format, what we call that. Prior to that, in order to get a category win, in other words, in order to win a champion division or get a champion win or a grand win, you had to have the highest score in that division. You know, obviously if there's just one cast, but if there's multiple casts, you could get a grand win and not get accounted for it if you want the highest scoring dogs. He had a grand total of 15. I'm talking about Wildman had a grand total of 15 grand wins.
Yes.
Where he was the highest scoring dog.
Yes. And actually,
and he was still pretty young when you retired him. So
yeah, and actually after I never handled him in a cast after that World in 2015. As you know, I've promoted a lot of youth in our sport, and I'm all about the youth. Corey Jarrett run Wildman a lot in the youth.
I see he has a couple wins after that anyways.
And, you know, other people did. Sam Buff that does Buff in the Rough, you know, he's run him some, and you know, he was more then if somebody wanted to run a dog, and you know, I would let him run. But yes, if the Hall of Fame thing would have been there, me and him definitely would have went out after it.
Yeah.
Not saying we would have got it. It's not an easy thing to achieve.
Yep.
With Eukanuba, stamina is the one difference I'm seeing. When I'm running hair up north, my dogs will put on 10, 12, 15 miles of solid running, and they just don't tire as easily or as quickly. Oftentimes, my work schedule does not allow me to have the desired physical conditioning on my dogs, but even then, as many as 25 or more miles a day of hard running is just another day in the office. To me, it's been apparent Eukanuba's 30-20 sport formula is making that difference. Eukanuba, the official performance dog nutrition partner of UKC.
Well, number one, Jeff, who do you rank number one?
Number one is Dual Grand, Stacy's Mountain Outlaw, Shorty, NHBA Hall of Fame. And in my records, Shorty is the dog that put Stacy's Mountain Outlaw Kennels on the map. 2000, well, no, probably in 99, when the first World was held. The year prior, coming up to the World Hunt, Dad had brought me a dog to North Carolina.
You're saying the first World Hunt was in 2000.
Yes.
Yep.
In 99, Dad brought me a dog to North Carolina. And he said, Jeff, I want you to take this dog and run it and tell me what you think. I said, okay, what's the deal? He said, well, I just want you to run this dog and see what you think. So anyway, I ran him for a couple of weeks, and they had a field trial up in Withville, Virginia. So Dad said, I'll meet you in Withville at the field trial. I want you to run Shorty. And I'm like, he's not even registered. And he said, well, we can single register him. And I'm like, wait a minute. He is AKC registered. He said, yeah, let's just try him and see how he does in the hunt. If we don't like him, we throw the papers away or send him back to UKC and whatever. And I'm like, we don't own the dog. Dad being Dad said, don't you worry about it. One of my really good friends, it's his dog. He wants you to put him in this hunt. I said, okay. So we go up there and run him in this hunt, get scratched on a deer, running a deer. I'm like, okay, this didn't turn out as good as I hoped. And he said, well, take him back home, run him a little bit more. So I took him back home, run him some more, and a couple weeks we went to Saltville, Virginia to another field trial. And Dad said, I'm going to run him. I said, okay.
You used to go up to Saltville a bunch, didn't you? What club was there that in Saltville?
Holston River.
Okay.
River was just there a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But back when I first started and Dad and I started in the 90s there, Saltville was the biggest club in our area.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you'd pull in there, and there'd be 50 trucks in the parking lot, and 40 of us back then was hunting registered dogs. I mean, there was maybe 1 or 2 champions, and there was hardly no grands.
Oh, yeah.
So Dad hunted him at Saltville. One got in the final 4. You know, you had to run off then. Went out, won the runoff. I'm like, okay. So I take him. Dad said, take him back home. And I'm like, well, you're not going to take him back home? He said, nah, I'll be down in about a week to get him. I said, okay. So anyway, I take him back home, and Dad comes down in a week, and I said, Dad, he said, you're getting attached to this dog, ain't you? I said, yes, sir. I said, you need to take the dog back to Richard Kennedy, was his name, one of our neighbors. I knew him all my life growing up, and he was more of a coon hunter, but he had come across this beagle. I said, so you need to take him back to him, and either we buy him or give him back. You know, we shouldn't continue to hunt this dog in our kennel name, and we don't own him. And he said, okay, son. He said, you know, if there's any way he'll sell him, I'll buy him. You know, and he'll be ours. I said, okay, sounds like a plan. I said, he can get the UKC papers. So on Sunday, Dad and Mom go back home, and Dad's brother lived right across the street from Richard. So Dad pulls in his brother's driveway and gets Shorty out on the leash and walked him across the bridge and knocked on the door. His son come to the door that I went to school with. Dad said, you know, I need to talk to your dad. You know, is he here? And he looked at Dad and he said, Dad passed away last night. So Dad was really shocked, and he said, oh, really? Well, I've got his dog here, you know. He said, no. He said the last 2 days before he passed, he told Mom and I to make sure you knew that's your dog, to keep that dog, and you owe nothing. And Dad said, oh, and kind of in shock, you know, left. And when him and Mom got to his house, you know, he calls me and tells me this story. And I'm young. And I'm like, well, did you get the UKC papers? And he said, son, there's more poor things in life than a set of papers. There's no way I was going to ask that family with what they was going through about a set of papers that they probably didn't even know anything about. So anyway, Shorty stayed as a great dog. He's in UKC, and he built it from there. A couple more little stories about him. You know, we started doing a lot of winning with him. You know, Dad and I both. Championed him, I'll never forget. And as you said, Alan, very good point. You had to have the highest score in the champions to win towards grand. Once he made champion, he won 5 casts straight as the highest score to make grand. So we got on a roll, and
that's a pretty impressive feat, and especially back in those days, because there weren't nearly as many clubs back then, and usually that resulted in more dogs at the trials too.
Yeah, like I said, the parking lots would be full. I mean, you would have 50, 60 trucks that are just a regular hunt, you know, and it was hard to win. Well, Dad and him was winning, and I was winning, and then Dad started getting a little sick and getting, you know, he got crushed up in the coal mines and stuff, and he's like, Jeff, I want you to take over Shorty, and I'll keep him right. And then, you know, Dad pretty much retired from there, and he would run him in them mountains hard all week, and I'd show up at whatever trial and handle him on weekends. We won 3 state championships back then, back to back. We won Virginia, which was out of Withville, Virginia, with Shorty, and first time I met Eric Yant, and they was running Buckeye Challenge Series back then. I didn't know what a challenge series was. Like I said, you know, we'd only been in a few years. I went out there, there was 3 grands there, 2 from Michigan, Kyle Klingerman and Eric Yant and me. And luckily I won grands both days with Shorty, won the hunt. Go to North Carolina the next weekend, and we always did a runoff. At that time, it was a one-day state hunt. We would do a runoff of the registered dog and the champion dog and the grand dog. Well, Shorty wins grands. He wins the runoff. Well, the next weekend, Dad comes down. We're going to Santee Cooper, South Carolina. There was a club there way back in the day. Unfortunately, Dad was sick, and he got very sick that Friday night. So I go like at 3 o'clock in the morning to pick him up, and he's like, "Son, I can't go. I'm going to go to the hospital." He's like, "I believe I've got pneumonia." And I'm like, "Oh, crap." I said, "I don't go to no hunt." He's like, "No, you go." Well, me and Mr. Bundy, which is Kristen's grandfather, we go on to Santee Cooper, South Carolina. Well, I was the only grand there. And they was running it just like North Carolina, though. At the end of the day, the registered dog, the champion dog, and the grand dog would run off for the overall state champion. So they give me a non-hunting judge and a guide, and I go out and hunt the grands 2 hours back then. Shorty comes in with like 600 some plus. I mean, he jumps 2 rabbits, three lines, one of them, 1 line's another one in a trash pile or whatever. But anyway, good plus. And we go into the runoff. He pretty much dominated the runoff. So that was 3 weekends back to back to back. And I'm like, man, this dog's got what he needs. 2000, we go to the World Hunt. That's when we met the McVeighs. Don McVeigh Jr. and I drew out, and Dad was spectating, Shorty, of course, and Don Sr. was spectating Don Jr. And them two stayed at the truck and made really, really good friends. So that family connection has stayed pretty tight since 2000. That's 25 years of friendship. Even though we've had our up and downs a few times, but more me than anybody else, me and the rest of them, but nothing major. You know, we went out and Shorty won the cast, but we never seen the rabbit. He jumped the only rabbit on the cast. We run it. I think he went in check. He picked the check up. We ran it probably 30 minutes. Then it was a 90-minute hunt, and then we never got nothing else. So anyway, I didn't advance. We didn't advance at the first World Hunt on circle points or whatever. And actually, Todd Morgan at the time was running, UKC, the Beagle program, and him and I had a discussion. And actually, Todd offered me the state rep job in North Carolina in 1997 when we started our Beagle Club. Actually, we started in 96. 97, he offered me the state rep job, and I accepted it, and here I am still today.
Almost 30 years now.
Yeah, been a long time. And but anyway, Shorty did well. In 2001, we roll into we'll go to the Nationals. I'm going to do the Nationals first. I'm walking up to measure my dog, and I don't know a lot of people. I mean, it was held in Kilbuck here in Ohio. And, people's walking up to me and, hey, how you doing? And first time I meet Roy Swafford, and he's like, hey, Shorty, what's going on? And, I took that as a compliment. People knew.
Might not know your name, but they know your dog's name.
They knew my dog's name. And so I was pretty pleased with that. And we had a good run that year to the Nationals, pouring down rain. I won some casts, and I didn't end up in the finals, but was very proud of Shorty. So we go on to the World in Kalamazoo. And again, Roy's there, Todd's there, which I know them by then. And Outdoor
Talking
Life.
about Todd Kellum from UKC.
Yep, Todd Kellum was there. Todd Morgan was there. That's when I really got to know Todd Kellum pretty well, and Roy Swafford and the Gants. I'd met Eric one time. I actually got to meet Donnie. And so we got on a pretty good roll up there that weekend with Shorty, and Outdoor Life Network was filming it. So we get all the way, and Dave Butler and I drew semifinals, and we became good friends. We've been friends since then, 2001. Again, 25 years. A lot of friendships has come out of this stuff with me through UKC. And anyway, Nate's fire dog had won a lot. She was a nice dog. Anyway, the camera was out there with us, and I still have that cassette today. or tape, whatever you want to call it.
VHS tape,
Yep,
I think is what
VHS, yes, sir.
what they called it.
And we go into the finals. It's a 3-dog finals. It's Shorty and Lee Alexander's King dog, which they had bought from the McVeighs, Roy Swafford. And actually, we're running the final cast at Todd Morgan's parents' house. Had a lot of mud paths, and I had run there on Friday. They had run it one round. I actually didn't run Shorty there. I ran a different dog there. And I knew there was rabbits there. But it was very warm that day.
I've ran there before. I know the spot you're talking
Yep.
about.
lot of spectators. I mean, just unreal to trucks that went out back then. So we go in there, and it's hot. Dogs is not hunting a whole lot. And we're walking, and all of a sudden, Shorty jumps a rabbit, and I slam him. I mean, just right off the first bark, and the other dogs fell in. King and Roy's dog struck third. They go to running. They go up that little bank up there, kind of if you're at their garage, looking straight away, a little to the left, towards that dirt road, and they're bringing him back, and I'm ready to get a line because Shorty was very fast. And actually, he was sneaky fast. If you didn't hear him, he was passing, and when he got out to tell him to come on, he would come on. You know, sometimes I worried a little bit about, man, you got to give me enough for 51% of the track, because he wanted to get away from them dogs and drive it. But he was coming. They was all coming. And the Outdoor Life Network camera guy ran down the mowed path. Well, all of a sudden, the dog shot out in the path and made a loss. And as soon as the judge, there was 3 judges out there, said dogs in check, King open, and within 2 seconds, Shorty opened. They drove her out of there. Then Roy's dog, fell in. King got the recovery. We had 20 minus. He had 20 plus. Across that dirt road it went. Down in there, and they pounded this rabbit. All 3 non-hunting judges was down in there. The handlers, we stood in the road. Todd Morgan was up there with the gallery, keeping everybody back, and they was pounding and pounding the rabbits. So the hunt went out, and I could hear Shorty just pulling and doing a really nice job. They holler hunt's over. Everybody's congratulating Dad back at the truck. They knew who had first strike and blah, blah, blah. Well, I knew I'd lost unless they scored a line in that 30 minutes that was in there. And we called the dogs out. Each judge, that walked out, of course, I'm like, okay, did you score a line? Nope. Or did you see the rabbit? Nope. Third one come out? Nope. Well, at that time, Shorty come out, and I put him on a leash. And Alan, I've been doing this, like I said, since 95. It's the only time in my career that I ever had tears come out of my eyes. I was kicking gravels, throwing my hat, just to myself. And
big disappointment.
Big disappointment, and the biggest in my career. And evidently, Morgan, somebody reported, Jeff's down here throwing his hat, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And
somebody write him up.
So he tells Dad, and they're like, well, what the hell's wrong? He should have won this thing. So I'm walking up, the driveway there, going back up toward the gallery and the truck's parked, and the camera people's trying to interview me. Well, that's why you see me wear sunglasses all the time, because there was a ton of tears behind the sunglasses, and I would shake my head and say, no. So I get to the truck, and Dad's standing there, and he said, did you talk to the camera people? I said, no, not going to. And he said, yes, you are. You're going to go congratulate the winner, and you're going to do your interview. And I said, yes, sir. A lot of respect for my dad for a lot of different reasons. But anyway, and I mean, I was busting inside. So, I walked over and congratulated Roy, for finishing third. King and Lee Alexander and all of them for being the world champion. And, I lost on a check. And I walked back to my truck. Well, the camera crew came over, and I've got the the tape, as I said, at home. And I said, all I got to say is, I caught a bad break. Very proud of my dog, and we'll be back. Took me a long time to get back. Not really a long time. Shorty, I think, finished top 10 in the world 3 times I know of. And the other losses, the 5th place, 4th place, 7th place, I was laughing at the end of the cast. It wasn't, I lost the world championship on a check.
But that just goes to show how, how big a world championship is. Anybody that hunts competitively, sure, you want to win nationals and this and that. A lot of hunts you want to win, but a world championship, that's a world championship. And to be that close, that would be a heartbreaker for anybody.
It is. And, and I've been there, I've had Freck in the finals, Wildman in the finals.
Well, I remember when you talked about Alan Newby running Freck when you couldn't be here that year.
Right.
I remember being out on that cast. Man, there was an entourage of people that were rooting for Freck. People. It speaks volumes. But everybody likes Jeff Stacy. They were rooting for it. And, his buddy had the dog here, and boy, he looked pretty good too that day. But
well, that was an interesting day. Of course, I begged everybody in the family to drive me to Pennsylvania because I wasn't in a condition to drive at the time, and of course. Doctors and all says I couldn't go, but I didn't really care. And, I had some pretty harsh words for my brother and a few other people, but they wouldn't bring me. So I was listening to it on Facebook and all that, and I'll never, ever forget, out of the truck, Joshua reports, Freck struck first, there goes the rabbit. And I'm like, yes.
Man, blood's probably pumping.
It's pumping. And I didn't even feel sick at the time. I felt like I could touch the ceiling. But anyway, of course, 3 minutes later, Freck takes a minus, that kind of sucked it out of me. But back to, I'm very proud of that. But, back to Shorty, Shorty and I together won at least 7 or 8. I've got it on record at home. State championships. We were also in the show. We won 7 or 8. So he was a beautiful dog, and he was very proud. I could stand that dog on the bench and walk away. And I actually got a little cocky one time down in Virginia, and I put him up on the bench. I was winning shows everywhere I go. And I just went back and leaned up against the clubhouse. And
don't tell me he jumped off and took off.
No, never moved. The judge walked over there and said, I'll never forget it. You put your hands on the dog or I'm disqualifying you. Your showboating shit don't work. Yeah. Again, I'm young. Dad's laughing his ass off at me. But, I was young. I was proud. Shorty was proud. And anyway, Todd Morgan from UKC, they was doing incentive fund back then. He calls me at work, I don't know, middle of the year, whatever, and he's like, Jeff, why ain't you nominated this dog in the incentive fund? I said, not in it for the money. I'm in it for the love of the sport. I've competed in baseball, basketball, football, all as a child. Got a lot of broken bones. Almost got paralyzed, about lost my right leg and football and all, a lot of surgeries. So, I was going through a period of life that it was hard for me to compete. I loved racing, race cars, NASCAR, and I was trying to get into a lot of that. And Dad's like, nope.
You're right in the heart of NASCAR
country,
where you live.
And Dad's like, I called Dad and said, hey, man, I need, $10,000 to buy me a car to start running at local short track. He's like, you're crazy. I'll give you anything, but I'm not giving you no money to buy a race car. So all of a sudden, I started spending more time. I got married in '88 for the second time, and got back into hunting more with my cousins, uncles, that I had done my whole childhood. Because I deer hunted a lot, but I kind of quit the dogs for a while. Mm-hmm. And I got back into the dogs, and then that put the fire and the passion back in me, and that I can compete and I can work. And you still break bones if you fall out in the field, but you know, and man, UKC's been a blessing to me. And
well, that leads me into something else. I want to go back to Shorty just a little bit, but in a little bit, but today still. So you're talking about something from 20 years ago, basically. But what still drives you today to want to breed a good dog and hunt a good dog in these hunts and have a dog in these hunts? What still drives you?
The biggest driving factor and my goal was and is the World Championship is, in my opinion, the biggest hunt of the year. It's the most prize to me. Like you said, winning nationals, winning all these state hunts, winning NHPA days. All that's cool and good and nice, but I wanted to win this World Championship so bad, or produce a dog to win this World Championship. And I wanted to do it for my dad.
Yeah.
And my goal was to do it before he passed. Well, you know, he's been gone 3 years now. I even thought about it a little bit. Well, he's gone, I'm done. And I'll just go back to having fun and you know, still hunting, but whatever.
So circling back to Shorty, so you talk about Freck, and you told you said why you ranked Wildman above him. Why do you rank Shorty at number one? I think you kind of mentioned a little bit in the onset, but mind us again. Why you got him as your number one here?
Shorty's number one is, as I said in the beginning, he was the start and
put you on the map.
Put us on the map, our kennel on the map, for people in Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, all these other states to become to know Dad and I, that, you know, that he put us there. And I felt like he put us there the right way. And back to the incentive fund thing, Morgan told me at the time, Jeff, you got a dog here that it's got a higher winning percentage than anybody that's getting checks. And I'm like, not interested, Todd. You know, don't do it. I work for a living. I do this for a sport. It's not about the money to me. It's not about the money for Dad. And Dad made that rule for us as a kennel. And we're doing it for the sport and the love of the animal and the betterment of what we can do.
Yeah.
And I still stick to that today. You know, don't get me wrong, money's nice and we need it. But the prestige, if I could just hold that world champion up one time, then I would probably quit for sure, and say I've done. I've achieved my goal.
Yeah.
So after the sickness, you know, it was pretty tough, and I was down and out pretty hard. But anyway, the drive became again back to the same thing, and you know, I was kind of a little slow getting back, but you know, people like Alan Newby and you know, my whole family, brothers, sisters, moms, cousins, and you know, Debbie at the time and still today, you know, they've supported me so much and they know what my passion is, and I couldn't walk away.
Hey, Alan, I don't know if you've been messing around with this new Houndsman Advantage app at all, but I've been playing with it some, and it has some really cool features on it. One, it has the interactive scorecard view where you can assign strike and tree points at the touch of a button, and it automatically totals your scores after each set of points are scored and valued.
Yeah, no, I like it as well. Some of the features that I like is that you can access the rules and that it comes with a search function to easily find any specific rule. Also like that there's a place for your dog's registration numbers, and you can store pictures of your easy entry cards. I like that you can track two dogs' performances when out pleasure hunting. You'll find some analytics on your dogs. You can record their accuracy, win percentages, and a whole lot of things like that.
No more lying here on this app. The last thing about the scorecard I'll talk about is it has the summary view as well, where you can see the total points you have and the pending points that you have, along with tree timers for each dog. So it's going to come in handy for judges as well. So check it all out on the new Houndsman Advantage app.
Hey, one thing we did not talk about Shorty is his reproduction record. Now, it's not quite as extensive as, like, say, Wildman, you know, but he did produce 51 pups and several winners for you. Red, you mentioned Red. He's one of those. Bell and several others.
Red, Bell, Thunder. You know, Thunder placed fourth in the world.
Yeah.
You watched my brother handle him.
I did, yeah.
That was Red's littermate. Belle, you watched me finish 8th in the world with her. Her littermate, Whitey, was dual grand, won a lot of big shows and won a race. Actually, Red and Thunder both won the UKC Point Series Eastern Region in 08 and 09, back to back. And a dog named Half Pint was one of Shorty's early litters. I'll never ever forget, I won the Point Series race with her. I don't know, it was probably back in 02 or 3 or something like that. And that's when we ran off at the Nationals, and I come up with this little 12-inch dog. She looked just like her daddy, but she was the runt. She was so small, but she was all heart. And I ran against Eric Yant and them guys in the runoff, and that little dog put on a show. And you know, he produced so many. But in Dad's eyes, Shorty never produced another Shorty. And I feel like the reason he didn't, even though he produced several winners, 53 pups, a lot of them went to gun hunters. No one hunted dogs that we bred but us, me and him and my brother and my sister, unless it went to a gun hunter. It was nobody else field trialing our dogs. And, I think he made 23 or 24 champions out of 57, almost 50%, and it's in the 40s. So we didn't breed him enough. Number one, Shorty passed away at my house at 14 years old. And I ran him gun hunted him the week before he passed. And he started having strokes, and the vet just couldn't save him. And Dad said, take him home and turn him loose. And I took him home and turned him loose and never found him.
Yeah.
I walked many miles, and I still from time to time. But if I'm ever in them woods, because Dad, then he would say, well, at least go find his collar. I've never found him.
No kidding.
And
kind of a sad ending there.
It was for the dog with all the history, and that's the reason Shorty was number one. He loved me and Dad. Of course, Wild Man wouldn't hire off of Shorty's butt to Dad. To me, big difference. Big difference. But times change.
Yeah.
And Freck the same way. I wished I would have had Wild Man in Freck's times to really. He may have not have done what Freck has done, because I've told a lot of people, and may have even told you, when Freck was 2-year-old, he was and Flame. They were better dogs than Wild Man at 2-year-old. But by the time Wild Man actually hit 3.5, 4-year-old, at the Nationals that year, we won the All-Star Shootout. He was the only dog that he won at the Eliminator, was in the finals. In HBA days, was in the finals. Eliminator was Tennessee, Northern Indiana. And then we came to the Nationals, and I was running against Clint Haney. We was the only two packing the top. Wild Man goes out and wins, and Clint loses. And, that made him the All-Star $1,000 winner and all that. And
all-age winner.
Yeah, all-age winner. Dad was very, very proud, and so was I. And then that same year was when he finished third in the world at Tennessee. And I'm like, what more has he got to prove, other than make me another one? And I wished I could have done that with Shorty.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, this has been very interesting, and I like just sitting back and hearing these stories about some of these dogs. Ran with a couple of them, or ran with Freck. Saw Wild Man go too. Wish I could have got to see Shorty, but it's interesting to hear you talking about all these stories and this and that. And I hope our viewers enjoyed listening to this today, but I'm going to let you close us out here in just a minute. But again, I want to thank you for taking the time here and doing that. You mentioned your dad a bunch of times, and you mentioned there at the World Hunt in Tennessee, and you just beat out Beauty, and I forget what other dog was in the cast. I remember him coming back, all of you, and I can still today see his smile. I did an interview, and I remember your dad sitting there in the interview, and man, that was a good interview. I wish I could still dig it up. But he was just a happy camper. And, he mentioned your dad's gone now, and I know you thought the world of your dad. He was obviously your hero, and a lot of folks thought the world of him, and I'm sure he would love to hear this podcast you talking about, but maybe somebody will turn it up a little bit for him here, but I'll let you close us out.
Yeah, the biggest thing is, I'd love for you to find that too, because that would mean a lot to the whole family. At that interview at the World, Dad was on the decline pretty rough then, but he was happy. And a lot of my family was there. My brother Jerry was there, and niece. But in closing, I'd like to close with Freck and say, the year Debbie ran him in 2019 and won the championship, she handled him more than I did. I was very proud of them too. They've always been a good team. The year before that, I was running him in Kentucky State Hunt 2 years before that. I was running him in Kentucky State Hunt down at Rocky Islands Club, and my niece, Ashley Stacy, was handling him, and I was handling the Coco dog that was his litter mate and was a very good dog. But anyway, pack of coyotes come in on him, and they was driving this rabbit, and they went to a cliff, and I don't know if Freck tried to fight him or what, but he ends up falling over a 50 feet drop onto a ledge. Well, I'm back at the club, cast over, waiting on, Ashley to come in, and there is a documentary on my Facebook about it. Anyway, so they finally get back after dark. Atlee Lambright, good friend of mine, and was on that cast, and they come back and they tell me Freck's over this cliff, and I'm like, oh my God. So we get out there, and Atlee's a great athlete, and he's wanting us to tie ropes and belts, and he's going to go down and get him. I mean, we did have Garmin's, and we could pinpoint him, and you could lean over far enough to see him standing on the ledge with another way deeper fall to the bottom. And I'm like, no. Time out, everybody. Everybody was, I said, we're not getting nobody hurt. Let's go back and regroup. So I went back, talked to the guys in the area, got on the phone, and I got the life rescue team out of Kentucky to meet me the next morning to go in there with the crew with the right equipment. And I was out there, after I went back to the club, went back out there like at 9:30, he's still there. Go back at midnight, he's still there. I go back at 2 in the morning, he's still there. 4 in the morning, he's still there. And I'm like, good, he's not panicked, he's not jumped off, whatever. He's hanging there, standing there. And anyway, the crew goes out there, and everybody else goes out on the cast, and I meet the crew and go out there with them, and they go down, and I said, guys and gals, if y'all will listen to me, I said, I need a female to go down. If you're not going to let me go down. And they wasn't going to let me go down. I wasn't part of the team. Freck was spoiled by Debbie, as I said, and he didn't like a lot of men. I could catch him anywhere, but he wouldn't, even on cast. It was hard for, in his younger age, for a man to catch him. He would go around him. And I said, I believe he'll come to a female. So this girl, she gets in the harness, and they send her down with a couple treats. She comes straight to him. And when they bring her up on all the ropes and everything, and she's got him in her arms, and she just sets him on the ground. I'm sitting 25 yards up on the hill watching. He just comes flying. I just said, just turn him loose. And he came flying, jumped in my lap. So that's a very special story, and Freck was meant to be here.
Thank you for listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast. Be sure to give us a follow so you don't miss any of our new episodes or content.